Scared money don't make money. This is Bluedrops from the markets.
So many of you are demo trading right now, which is great. You should. But there will come a time where you need to transition into real money. And this is going to be a complete mindfuck because you can really kind of lay back and not even maintain demo trades if you didn't want to. And if you try to carry that logic over into transitioning to real money, you are going to get destroyed. It's watching your money go up and down in a real money account, knowing that is actually your money, really, really plays tricks on you. So just the fact of going from demo into real is going to be quite a jump, and you have to be ready to make that jump. And that's almost too much for some people. I know people who have demo traded for 5 years, and they're good. They don't demo because they're unsuccessful and they're still looking for something that works. No, they have something that works. They just don't want to make that transition because they're just not comfortable. When it really comes down to it, they're just not comfortable investing. They don't want to do it themselves. They want to hand it over to somebody else. And putting up your real money and actually trading with it is eventually going to be something you're going to have to do. And you're going to need to walk into that fire and somehow find a way to trade the exact same way you did when you traded during demo. Not going to be easy, but eventually something you're going to have to do. You can trade your own money and hope that you can get a good enough return year after year to compound interest and get your retirement savings or your spending money, that way, however you want to do it. Or you can trade other people's money, whether it means setting up your own practice and trying to draw in clients, or take the route that I took and join up with a prop firm or a hedge fund or a big company. There's other ways to do this. There's other psychological factors involved, but just the simple fact of getting there, making that leap and saying, okay, my real money's on the line now, or making that leap and saying, okay, this is my chance. I'm going to make a big, bold attempt to go trade other people's money, knowing that they're going to test me, knowing that I'm going to be judged, and having to make that leap. Really, really tough in a lot of ways. But if you are going to be a professional someday, these are the routes you have to take. And where I grew up, you went to college, you got an entry-level job, you got married early, you had kids early, and then you just lived for them. And I didn't want that. And I also waited tables most of my adult life, and I didn't want that either. And so that alone, and I guess the fear of getting older and still doing all these things and having these crazy expectations on me to just kind of pack it in, motivated me, and I started reading. And the very first book that I read that really had a gigantic impact on me was Rich Dad, Poor Dad. You guys might have read this one too. But I read it, and I kept saying to myself, holy shit, I'm poor dad. I was raised to be poor dad. And this is not a knock on my parents or where I grew up. This is just the mentality of where I was. And I don't think that's uncommon. But I learned that rich people do things completely different. And it's not because they start off rich. It's just because they have a completely different mentality and a totally different end game. And I said right away, okay, I've switched sides. I want to be rich dad, and I'll do whatever I have to take to get there. And then the very next book I read, I kind of got lucky reading this one first and then jumping into one that I've already talked about, The 4-Hour Workweek. This took a lot of those fears away because everybody, I think, has them growing up. We don't just say, okay, we're going to go full throttle now. We're going to do whatever it takes. No, we all have those fears in our way that we have to get over first. And the 4-Hour Workweek, especially the first 2 sections, I think there's 4 sections overall. I think those first 2 sections carry over for eternity. Such a good job of getting rid of those fears. So I was already in the right headspace, and now I'm in an even better headspace because now I'm going to do whatever it takes to get away from the life I have and get into the life I want. And I really don't think that if I didn't read those 2 books first, in that order, that I would have ever sought out the different avenues that I did, and I would never take the chances I did once I got there. So honestly, I know, entrepreneurial mentalities are different nowadays. Being an entrepreneur is actually cool. Back then it really wasn't. You know, it was almost kind of looked down upon in a way. But no, so thought processes are a little different nowadays. But guys, no matter how old you are or how deep into this you are, I think those two books are absolute required reading, just to get yourself into that headspace and make sure that you never leave that headspace. And when the time comes to make that move, make that move. This is the next logical step in your progression. Because in the end, the only thing to really fear is not doing anything.